Have you ever had a cool idea for an app and wondered, how do you actually make it, well, smart? Today, we're going to jump into Microsoft Azure and see exactly how its cloud services work as building blocks to create intelligent tech literally from the ground up.
It really all boils down to this one question. How do you take a totally normal, everyday object like, say, a piece of factory equipment, or even your thermostat at home, and give it a voice? How do you make it smart enough to tell you what's going on, analyze its surroundings, and maybe even make its own decisions? That's the challenge we're going to tackle.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll connect our app to the real world. Then, we're going to add a brain to it so it can process what it's sensing. After that, we need to give it the logic to actually do something. And finally, we'll look at how to build and ship the whole thing, fast and efficiently.
All right, first up, connecting to the physical world. Before any app can be smart, it needs senses. It has to be able to pull in data from its environment.
The technology that makes all of this possible is the Internet of Things, or IoT. Now, at its core, IoT is really just a big network of connected devices. We're talking everything from tiny little temperature sensors on a factory floor to really complex systems inside a car. Their one job? Collect data and send it somewhere to be processed. This data collection, it's the absolute foundation for our entire smart solution. Now, to handle all this data flowing in, Azure gives you two main options. Think of Azure IoT Hub as a giant, super secure post office. It's the core engine that handles all the messages between your app and potentially millions of devices. But if you want a complete, ready-to-go dashboard to see and manage everything without all the setup, that's where Azure IoT Central comes in. It's a whole platform built right on top of IoT Hub that makes visualizing and controlling things way, way simpler. And here's what that IoT Central interface actually looks like. As you can see, it gives you this really clean, visual way to hook up new devices, look at their data, which is called telemetry, and even set up alerts. This is how you can manage thousands of devices without having to write a mountain of custom code. It's pretty amazing. But what if you're building a brand new device from scratch and security is your absolute #1 priority? Well, that's exactly what Azure Sphere is for. It's an all-in-one solution that bundles the hardware chip itself, a custom secure operating system, and a cloud service that handles all the security and updates. You get this locked-down, secure device from the silicon all the way up to the cloud. Okay, so we have data flowing in. Awesome! But data by itself isn't smart, right? We need a way to actually make sense of it all. And that brings us to part 2, adding an intelligent brain.
The brain of our application is, you guessed it, artificial intelligence, or AI. AI is what lets our system go way beyond just collecting data. It's about simulating human intelligence to process that info, learn from it, find patterns, and ultimately help us solve really complex problems or even predict what's going to happen next. This is what makes the app truly smart.
And, building your own AI is actually way more accessible than you might think. What you're looking at here is Azure Machine Learning Studio. It's a visual, drag-and-drop portal where you can create, train, and roll out your own custom machine learning models. You could build a model to predict when equipment might fail or to forecast sales, and you can often do it without writing a single line of really complex code. Now, what if you don't need a totally custom model? No problem. Azure also offers something called cognitive services. These are basically pre-built AI models that you can just plug directly into your app. Think of them as giving your application senses like vision to analyze images, speech to transcribe audio, and language to understand what people are asking for. And when you combine these services with something like the Azure Bot service, your application can start interacting with people in a really natural way. All of a sudden, that smart factory we imagined can actually have a conversation with an engineer through a chatbot, answering questions or sending out alerts in just plain English. So, our app can sense the world and it can think, but now it needs to act. And that brings us to part 3, powering the application's logic. The key idea here for making our app act is something called serverless computing. Now, despite the name, there are still servers involved, but you don't have to manage them at all. You just provide your code and the cloud runs it for you automatically whenever an event happens. It's kind of like giving your application reflexes. And the best part? You only pay for the split second your code is actually running. Azure has 2 main tools for this. First, you have Azure Functions. These are perfect for small, focused bits of code. For example, a function could trigger to automatically resize an image the second it gets uploaded. Then you have Azure Logic Apps, which lets you visually design entire workflows. You'd use a logic app to coordinate a more complex process, like, hey, when a new customer signs up, send them a welcome email and update our sales database. See the difference? Okay, we've designed all the cool pieces of our application, But how do we manage the actual process of building it, testing it, and updating it over time? This is where our final section comes in. Part 4, building and shipping faster. The modern answer to that question is a practice called DevOps. It's all about bringing software development, that's the dev, and IT operations, the ops, together. The whole goal is to automate the entire pipeline, from a developer's idea all the way to the final product in a user's hands, making the whole process faster and way more reliable. You can think of it like an automated factory, but for your software.
And Azure provides a complete toolchain for this called Azure DevOps Services. I mean, it covers the whole shebang. You can plan your work in Azure boards, you can store all your code in Azure repos, and then you can use Azure pipelines to automatically build, test, and deploy that code out to your users. It's the whole workflow all in one place.
And of course, you really can't talk about DevOps without mentioning GitHub. It's a hugely popular platform for sharing code and collaborating. And with something called GitHub Actions, you can build those same powerful, automated workflows right inside your code repository. It's a go-to choice for tons of open source and enterprise teams out there.
So let's just take a step back and look at the journey we've been on. We started by connecting our solution to the physical world using IoT. Then we gave it a brain to analyze all that data with AI. We taught it how to react instantly to events with serverless compute. And finally, we put a professional process in place to build and deploy it all using DevOps. And that really brings us to the end of our tour. We've seen all the building blocks, right? The sensors to connect to the world, the brain to analyze data, the reflexes to act on it, and the factory to build the whole thing. So the only real question left is, with all these incredible tools at your fingertips, what smart solution will you build?